Thanks, Connor. Definitely an issue that we're going to be keeping an eye on. The ongoing crisis along the U.S. Mexico border took a dramatic turn yesterday when American Border Patrol agents fired tear gas into a crowd of people seeking asylum. The Trump administration doubled down, defending the action, with the president taking to Twitter to threatening to close, quote, the entire border. Talking Points analyst Tyler Lowell is here with the breakdown. So, Tyler, first question. We've seen this build from 6,000 troops sent before Thanksgiving to now migrants rushing the fence. Sure. How has this issue built up, and what are we seeing now? Where is it now?
Sure, that's a great question. I think it's important to remember that those, I think it's about 5,000 troops that are around the border, at this point in time, are not believed to have anything to have done with what happened yesterday. But yesterday was a pretty significant day in terms of our history, right? So Sunday morning began with migrants holding a relatively peaceful protest on this bridge where there's typically 500 to 100 people waiting for asylum. And around 11 o'clock, that protest changed course. They ended up actually rushing it splintered, and a group of people attempted to cross the border in mass. Initially, they were repelled by Mexican authorities, but they were able to overcome them. And then they were put back by the Customs and Border Patrol, CBP, before spilling over into this river area. By 11:15, not more than 15 minutes later, the San Ysidro port, which happens to be the most busy port along the U.S. Mexico border, was shut down. There was no traffic, there were no pedestrians, which is significant because approximately 100,000 people cross this border every day, and billions of dollars in international commerce take place here. So that was a really big deal. There is some video that shows some of the migrants throwing rocks at Border Patrol agents before they started gassing them, which has sort of caused some consternation in the conversation. But the port was ultimately opened again by 6 p.m., resuming business, and those 5,000 migrants, primarily from Honduras and El Salvador, are still in the same spot that they were yesterday.
And as for the migrants, traveling in the caravan, that's something President Trump has been talking a lot about recently. Tell us a little bit more about them, where they're coming from.
Sure. I mean, that caravan is really fascinating because it's quite the mix of people. There are 5,000 people, like I mentioned earlier. And so it's worth keeping in mind the majority of them are from El Salvador and Honduras, so Central American countries, and about a third of them are families with children. But there are disabled people, in the back who are being pushed by people in wheelchairs. In fact, Gotti Schwartz was reporting today on MSNBC, that there are people who are down at the border, Honduran business owners and sort of middle-class folks who have been driven out of their homes. This is the sort of last resort for them, so you can sort of think of them as economic refugees. And in fact, there was Al Jazeera reporting that talked about a Cameroonian man who went from Ghana to Istanbul to Colombia, through Nicaragua, the forests of South America, before finally arriving in Mexico. And he's also part of that caravan as well. So it's a very, very diverse selection of people.
And that's unfortunately where we'll have to leave it. Thank you, Tyler.
Of course.